Boys, I'm a robot, apparently.
I mean, we know you're a robot, dude. The whole world
Yeah,
knows you're a robot.
that's fair.
Now it's at the beginning of
Now,
a
yeah,
of a
oh yeah,
live
that's all.
stream.
I wasn't even paying attention.
Can't
Yep.
even figure out a captcha. Just a
Ah,
cowboy hat wearing robot over here, man.
that's right. It took me three tries, man.
We're
I can't
live,
even figure out
dudes.
I know that's what we're
Yeah,
talking
we're
about.
just
Yeah.
Oh.
tell, tell the whole world knows I'm a robot now.
Do you guys ever watch that movie Grandma's Boy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
God,
JP.
the
Yeah,
secondhand
JP.
embarrassment of that character is insane. My whole body cringes every time he like speaks like a robot or hides
Yeah.
whatever he does.
There was a clip that just popped up, and I hadn't thought about that movie in years. Love that movie. It's hilarious. It's when he's talking about getting metal legs. It's like, thinking about getting metal legs. It's really
Yeah.
risky surgery, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I
And then
forgot
the
about
other one that
that.
always makes me laugh is when the lady comes in his office and he's like blasting his, music. He's like, "Does my music scare you?" She's like, "No." And what if you had robot ears?
Oh man. Yeah, it's good times. Pink, how's your robot or your metal legs working for you? Pretty good? Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good, man. Like they don't get as tired as my
You have to
human
oil
legs
them
did.
often or
Do have to grease them up from time to time.
What's the maintenance schedule? Yeah, on robot
Yeah,
legs.
how many miles can you get?
it's about 2,000 miles, so it's kind of tough, because most vehicles now are at least on a 5,000. So, it takes a little bit, but
Buddy, I don't think I've walked 2,000 miles in my life. I feel like I would just never have to do any maintenance.
I mean, you would if you had robot legs. So,
Yeah, yeah.
That is fair. Yeah, that is fair. All right.
All right, all right. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Hackle Box. I'm your host, Oscar, joined by the always wonderful Eric and the fantastic Pinky. What's up, dudes? Besides being a robot, Pinky, how you doing today?
I'm tired, man. I'm tired.
Yeah,
Been burning the candle oil at both ends. There we go.
yeah,
So the midnight candle oil.
yeah.
Yeah.
The midnight candle oil at both ends. I've heard of that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of
So I'm not a
experience with
robot.
grease fires, but I know they're bad. Don't throw water on them. That's what I know.
Yeah.
How you doing,
Same
Eric?
for robots.
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. Busy, rushing, barely remembered to even show up here today, but otherwise doing good.
I didn't know you were Russian. Interesting.
I've been studying Russian, but I'm not great at it, so
How's
don't
that
quiz
going?
me.
Yeah, I've heard you've been studying. I think Brett's studying as well.
It's going okay. I'm not like sitting here, learning properly. People who do Duolingo and stuff like that, like your expectation has to just be that you're going to learn a little bit of something, not enough to actually become fluent in Duolingo or something like
Sure.
that. So that's where I'm at. I'm messing around in Duolingo and AirLearn and other apps like that, but just familiar enough that I'll watch some shows. They'll have people speaking in Russian. I'm like, oh, I recognize two of those words they said. Couldn't have made out that conversation, but two of
Yeah.
those whole words.
Yeah, totally fair. I think if you're going into Duolingo with expectations that you're going to become fluent, like you're doing the wrong thing right now.
Yeah.
I like it. Like for me personally, like to brush up on my Spanish. Not that I was great in Spanish, but I've had like 3 years of Spanish, throughout my life. And if you don't use that, you forget it. And so before I'd like go to Mexico, I'll bust out Duolingo for a couple months before and just brush up so I can at least understand a few things, be slightly conversational if I need to be. It's good
Yeah.
for that.
At the very least, have the confidence that you're there, even if you're not there. You know what I mean? Sometimes
Yeah.
that's all you need is a little confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife is she's fluent in German but she hasn't like been had to use German in a long time. And so she like hopped on, was like, I'll brush up on my like, German and Duolingo. And she was like the ultimate master level. And it was like, this sucks. Okay, I'm not learning anything. All right. Let's dig in. Pink, you've been busy, man. You've been a real busy guy over there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been wild, man. I mean, we were kind of talking about it a little bit, but I think we even covered this a while back. We've had like a total flip in the the types of cases we're getting, right. So we've always
Mhm.
been really heavy on the email compromise cases because they happen more frequently. But I mean, we're right now. I'm struggling to think of any email compromise cases we have. Maybe one or two out of the 14 active that we have right now on the team. So yeah, it's been a rough few months. So yeah.
So let's dig in on one. I think we
Okay.
can talk all day about what you're up to. That could be the whole show, really. And it may end up being that. Um, but a new token theft attack kind of came out in the last couple weeks, started making its rounds, called EvilTokens. You guys seeing any EvilTokens action?
We have actually, yeah. So there's kind of two different versions of this attack.
Hmm.
And we have seen one of them so far that we caught, or that we're able to identify as definitely being that. As I'm reading more about it, I'm thinking that we may have seen at least one more that kind of popped into my brain as I've been reading a little bit about EvilTokens. But yeah, it's a new interesting attack. I don't know if you want to kind of run through how it happens, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, phishing, right? It all starts with a fish. It's the
yeah,
same as like what we've
yeah.
been seeing with Evil Proxy, Evil Jinx, all the other flavors of token theft attacks. But it's a new path we've seen before. It's going to be delivered in similar mechanisms. Let's make something real juicy you want to look at and you think you need to see and trick you into seeing that thing. But the difference here is it is abusing the device code flow authentication feature in M365, which is something like we could dig in and talk about that more. But I was studying, and if you read Microsoft's documentation about device code flow authentication, they tell you this is a high risk mechanism, right?
Yeah.
But it's auto enabled for everyone. You have
Pretty
to
classic.
manually configure policies to disable device code flow authentication. And so that's another reason why Microsoft sucks. But yeah, so essentially it's abusing device code flow authentication. That's an OAuth authorization method to essentially trick a user into injecting code into a link, right? So they're clicking the link. There's a code injection on there. That code injection on there, essentially, once the user logs in, they're logging into a real Microsoft page. That's a difference here, right? It's not a dummy page; it's the real page. But they don't see the code injection take place. When they log in, they're essentially authorizing access to another device by logging in on their device. So they're not even really, in this situation, they're not still in the MFA. They're not stepping in the middle to get that token. They're tricking you into running code that's authorizing that token to be either transferred to their device, right? Because there's two things, and you can talk more about this. In one case, they're actually transferring the login to somewhere else. Then the other case too is they're able to just utilize the same session token, right? So it's the same session token that you're utilizing on your device that then gets transferred to this other device through the device code authorization. And yeah, it's super sneaky. I'm surprised that it's taken this long for this attack to take place because this has been a feature that's been implemented into the Microsoft environment for a really long time. And explain why the feature is there. It's for headless devices, right? So if you have a device that you're not able to actually log in on there, smart TV, IoT cameras, whatever it is, you can use this function to be able to grant authorization to those devices to your M365 entity. Did I get that right, Pink?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so kind of talking about the two different methods there and why this is happening. Yeah, it has taken a while to get to this point, but I kind of almost think it's like they didn't want to burn it, right? They didn't want
Hmm.
to burn this vulnerability. So is part of it, I'm sure, because they haven't needed to, right? So we, up until very recently, um, we would, and I mean, like within the last year or so, the evil jinx, evil proxy attacks were working great, right? Like they just do that, steal your session token through the normal method. That's fine. So one of the things that we talked about doing to eliminate those attacks was go to like device based authorization or authentication. And so now that that's in place, they've had to break out this new technique and get those device-based tokens there. And so, yeah, like Oscar mentioned, there is the one where it's kind of like they get in the middle and grab that token. The other is more like, at least from what we can tell, honestly, we're a little early in this, but it looks to me and uh, Ben, our case manager that's been working a case like this, um, that it looks like they were able to pull the device token that was sort of cached on the machine, right? So Microsoft sends that token back. That one's a little bit different in that it doesn't quite log the same way. It looks the device authorization, the one that Oscar talked about, is generally logged in your normal Microsoft logs, right? Because you want to know if that took place. This one's a little different in that it just sort of steals that token. And then so what we'll see in the logs on that is you'll see a session using the same device session ID, that kind of thing. It'll even match like the original device's attributes, browser, that kind of thing, whatever kind of device it is. But it'll be a different originating IP address, right? So we'll see our attacker's IP address instead of the one that you originally came from. And so it makes it both of these are really tricky to track down, and they're extremely tricky to catch, from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, hunting is going to be a lot more difficult here for sure. And I think the only like true um, indicator right now is that IP change, right? If you can identify what the valid session token is and be able to parse that out and identify the IPs that are utilizing that, you should be able to identify an anomaly in the pattern there. Well, it is more difficult, right? Because we live in a world of constantly revolving IPs. But I think the like indicator to me is not only the new IP that's utilizing the token, but it's also while the original IP is still simultaneously utilizing that
Yeah,
token, right?
exactly. Yep. Yeah, definitely tricky. Yeah, and,
Yeah, and,
and
there, and
we've
there's two pieces to this on the Microsoft side, right? So I do think the top tier is restricting the device code flow authentication, right? And that should stop both of these attacks. But there is a world we live in too where maybe some organizations require that for business function. Then you're in a tough situation. There is a secondary policy that's authorization transfer, right? So you can also disable that flow as part of this. But if you disable that and you don't disable device code flow, you're still vulnerable, right? But if you're in a position where you have to use device code flow, you can at least limit the authorization transfers to help lower the likelihood. But there's still a chance you're going to become a victim here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's that cat and mouse game we play, right? I mean, we fix one thing, they have another one. And so it is going to be
Hmm.
tough for a bit. I mean, just like when we first started seeing the evil proxy, because that was sort of the original one that we saw like this,
Hmm.
there weren't a lot of good fixes for it. A lot of
Yeah.
it's, user education, paying attention, that kind of thing. We have developed some technical ways to handle that now, and now we're switching to a new method.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, hunting is going to be very difficult. So like I said, we're just now starting to see it. So we're kind of figuring our hunting methods out. Like Oscar said, a lot of times it's that IP, but man, that's a tricky world too. VPNs that people use, things like that. Legitimate use of VPNs and then attacker use of VPNs really starts to muddy those waters really quickly. Um,
And this is phishing as a service too, right? So the toolkit's out there.
yep.
Essentially, if you're, an attacker, you're just paying somebody to run these campaigns for you, and they got it pretty dialed right now. Be aware of that. I still go back to like, okay, we're talking about the technical mitigations right now. I think it is important to understand that, and honestly, like kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit, but we go back to, Evil Jinx. Um, like I haven't seen the world make progress on those conditional access policies. We're talking about like why they've had to use this right now, meaning like, getting the device and application authorization conditional access policies in place. Like I'm not seeing the data that we're caught up to that. And I say all that to say, like, okay, if we go back 5, 6 years ago when it was the push, like, hey, everybody get MFA on everything, right? We knew there would be another attack that came after that. People did pretty good. We saw adoption of MFA go through the roof, which was awesome. But then they switched to, the token theft attacks utilizing like Evil Chinks. And I haven't seen that shift where everybody's putting those conditional access policies in place to be able to prevent those attacks. So I am a little surprised, like you said, Pink, like they burned this one already because I think there's still a lot of low hanging fruit out there utilizing those other methods. But maybe this is a campaign that was developed for more sophisticated organizations because they had been able to implement those changes. And now we're just seeing it more widespread adoption because there's a really good clean phishing as a service kit out there. So why not jump to there?
yeah, very
Yeah,
possible.
I think it's exactly what you just said. I think that the reality is that we do see delayed adoption. I mean, I think we saw delayed adoption on MFA too. I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
disagree that that was
Mhm.
something that everybody jumped on. I mean,
Yeah,
I know.
I'm not saying it was fast. You're right. It took a long time
Yeah.
to get there, but when they did, like, um, I understand why they switched to the token theft attacks, right? Because there was
Yeah.
widespread adoption.
Yeah, and I think widespread adoption takes time, especially in smaller, medium businesses, things like that. I think too, like when you look at something like MFA, MFA does have an impact to users as far as like feeling like a hassle for sure, but it's still generally just like a flip of a switch and then deal with the thing and then you get used to the new normal, right? I
Hmm.
think that rolling out, access management device, authorization, stuff like that is more of an impact to their end users. It's more of a difficult thing. It's not just flip a switch and they're good. They have to actually actively be involved in making sure that things are enrolled properly and everything's being done. And so we're going to see even slower adoption to some of those things. And then, yeah, but the larger organizations or the more secure organizations are definitely dealing with that. So if you want something that's going to make you some money potentially and hit some of the higher up organizations, it's time to burn this, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And my point I was getting to, which I got really sidetracked there. I do that sometimes. It's like I'm talking about the technical remediations, but this still goes back to like what we said to begin with. It's still phishing. Like we still got to focus on training people, ensuring people know how to identify those, spot those, not click the link, report that, and how to, the human side of things is always going to be the weakest link here. That narrative hasn't changed. It's not going to change.
No, and to even, I know we kind of opened up with saying that we've had a flip and we're not seeing as many email compromise cases. That said, we have been seeing cases where email compromise leads to an internal compromise.
Hmm.
And so that hadn't been the case for a while. I mean, it's always a possibility, right? It's always a thing, but we've been seeing a lot more like perimeter device exploitation, things like that, right? I mean, Sonic Wall, we've seen so many of those things get
Yeah.
compromised and attackers using the VPN through compromised Sonic Walls and other brands. Just Sonic Walls fresh in my brain at the moment. But so we were seeing a lot of that. But even recently we saw a case where there was an M365, basically a business email compromise, where once the attacker was in, they had gotten an elevated account in the environment and then used that um, in combination with Intune, so the Microsoft Intune, to push out their essentially their command and control software.
Hmm.
And so it's not like it's just email. I always hear, "Oh, it's just email. We'll just change the password and move on." Um, be careful with that because it's not always just email. And even if it's a lower level account, right, they may do the thing we see all the time where they compromise a lower level account, hit up the IT team, right? Here's an email off to help desk. I'm having trouble opening this document, whatever, and boom, they get an elevated account that way.
Hmm.
So it's definitely, even though we've seen, at least for us, we've seen a little bit of a slowdown in email compromise cases. That doesn't mean they're not still happening. It doesn't mean they're not extremely serious when they do.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's another evolution of the attack chain because I think with more and more people fully integrating into Intra and that whole ecosystem, the power from a compromised account is changing significantly, especially if you can get to a point of someone with, significant access. And, to your point too, like it was funny, I just thought about this, but we were kind of briefly touched on the Iranian conflict last month's episode and kind of gave a warning, not to fear monger, like we're probably going to see some action because of this. And then Stroker happened, right?
Yeah.
And Stroker is a perfect example of what you're saying. I think they gained that initial access through, M365, probably through a phishing campaign. We're able to pivot to gain more valuable credentials and then just remote wipe all the devices.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And even if it's not, Iranian-based threat actors, just kind of the state of everything. People are distracted. It's kind of like we talk about
Hmm.
during holidays, that kind of thing. But it does seem like a lot of the threat actor groups have just sort of woken up in the
Hmm.
last few months. I mean, Akira has been around for a while, but man, they're really active right now. And they're not an
Hmm.
Iranian-based threat actor. So, um, anytime we see things like this going on, at a minimum, it just sort of increases the noise and frequency of attacks that we see out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, man, like kind of talking about using Intune to distribute malicious products or whatever. Um, all this stuff we see is just new plays on old tricks, right? Because we've been abusing, well, attackers have been abusing GPO for how long to be able to distribute malicious packages, schedule tasks, and download droppers throughout an entire organization. Uh, we've seen that obviously not as often now because there's not as many GPOs. Um,
Yeah.
so like, but it's just a new play. We're finding the new tools and figuring out how to use these new tools to do the same old shit that attackers have been doing for years and years and years.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Still works.
Yeah, it
Still
turns out
effective.
Yeah,
if it can be used to administrate something, it can be used to attack it too.
yeah,
Fact.
I mean, like
Yeah.
always has been, always will be. I mean, that's just the reality, which is always funny to me too when people we had conversations with clients and other people and internal conversations where like people act like it's like, oh, we know we gave them that permission, so it's fine. It's like you should still understand what that permission is. You know what I mean? Like any good admin could ruin your day too. You know what I mean? Not just an attacker. And
yeah.
generally, that's what attackers are going to focus on is learning how they admin the environment and use that against them, right? So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember one day a long, long time ago when I accidentally um deleted all the DNS records in our domain. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
did some pretty significant damage. I'm not going to call out. It was partially my fault. It's somebody we used to work with, Pinky. I'm not going to shame him here just in case he ever tunes in and listens. But
Sure.
you know this
Sure.
guy
Yeah.
very well. And you'd probably understand the story when I said the name a little better too. It's like, oh, this will
Yeah.
do it. And it's like, where did everything go? Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, don't
It
worry.
wouldn't take me a
Nowadays, you don't need a administrator who doesn't quite know what they're doing. You just need to ask AI to help you do it. Just run
yeah.
Yeah,
command
right.
Yeah.
for me, please.
Vibe adminning. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Vibe min. I like
Five
it.
men,
Vibe
five
min.
men.
New coin term there. There we go. Yeah. No, it's definitely a concern. And yeah, exactly right. If it can be used to admin, it can be used for bad. I mean, that's
Hmm.
the evolution we've seen of moving away from some more traditional command and control, Cobalt Strike, things like that, into AnyDesk and Screen Connect and different pieces like that are out there. I mean, that shows you. It's
Yeah. And it's
not
the same thing
only
we've
is
talked
a
about like before, like, our endpoint detection tools have gotten a lot better at identifying and stopping C2s. 6, 7 years ago, that wasn't the case. They're pretty decent at that now, but
yeah,
there's not an endpoint detection tool on the planet that's going to flag any desk.
Yeah.
and not unless you've told it to. Yeah.
Yeah, unless
Which
you have,
yeah,
true
yeah,
application allow listing. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I've also said many times over, it's kind of not really to the point, but to the point of what you're talking about is that things that work today won't work tomorrow, but things that worked yesterday will work tomorrow. It's just like there's a
Mhm.
cyclic nature to some of this stuff, and it's because there's constant like, oh, that was overtuned. Let's pull it back. Oh, now it gets through again, but no one's
Yeah.
doing that anymore, so it's fine. And we run into that a lot too, where something that never got through last year will get through every single day this year, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And yeah,
still just,
and
sorry, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, like people, it's yeah, exactly right. I mean, what was it? It's been several years ago, Oscar, that you and I were on a call, and someone told us that basically phishing was dead, like it's not a thing anymore, right? And
Yeah.
no, it definitely didn't stop. And I mean, just because it's simple, we'll call it simple. It's not
Hmm.
simple necessarily, but just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not effective.
Yeah. The reality, just like the admin conversation, an attacker always thinks about, I mean, if you're an attacker, either whether it's a black hat or a white hat or anywhere in between, the reality of the situation is you're always thinking, how does someone normally do this?
Hmm.
Right? If my phishing emails are getting stopped, if we're trying to send something malicious and it's getting stopped, why is it getting stopped? And how does it not get stopped? Right? Like obviously email works. Obviously I can send you an email asking you a question. So how is it that my email gets through and yours doesn't? Or this one doesn't, and then just going, okay, well, I'll just do the same thing they're doing. Oh, they just need to be sent from Microsoft. I can send some stuff from Microsoft. I
Yeah.
can send a link that comes from wherever that's allowed. They're always
Yep.
going to play on what's allowed, and they're always going to be trying to weasel around things. So it's
Yeah, that's a good call out too, because this campaign is utilizing a legitimate application known as Railway. I think Pinky, you discovered that, right? So it's just what you're saying, man. Let's abuse through something that people think is good.
yeah, find a way
Yeah.
to use a good thing bad.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Pinky mentioned that not seeing the C2s. That was something I wanted to talk about as much anymore. Seeing a lot more of just, living off land techniques or distribution of packages. So my question is like in most of these cases where you're seeing AnyDesk or whatever and use, is it a situation where they're distributing that through Intune, or are you still seeing where like there's relics in an environment where the client's already using this or they used it in the past and they're able to take over the remote connection software?
Yeah, most of the time it's they're distributing it, right? Not
Hmm.
necessarily through Intune. I mean that one's fairly new. I mean it's a new-ish to us in the sense of like we always knew it could happen. We hadn't really seen it in
Hmm.
action. But we do still see them just distributing it, group policies, logon scripts, whatever the case may be, just dropping it out on a share. We generally see the attackers bring in their own.
Hmm.
But certainly there are plenty of environments where a lot of those tools are already there. And so um, realistically, at the moment, we're not seeing as much of them abusing the existing tool. Most of those are credentialed or they have a management server or something that also needs to be um, tackled. But they can bring their own version of that, right? So
Yeah.
if AnyDesk is essentially allow list in your environment, then they just bring their own version of AnyDesk, and it's not going to get picked up either. And people are going to look at it and go, "Oh, it's just AnyDesk. Like we use that,"
Hmm.
and not really question that version. But yeah, we still do see most of them bring in their own
Yeah.
because it'll be. Hey, do you guys use Screen Connect? No, we've never used Screen Connect. Okay,
Hmm.
well, it's on all of your computers. Uh, so how
Yeah.
did it get there? And we got to figure it out from there. So.
I think a takeaway, like a recommendation for people, like it seems like Screen Connect and AnyDesk are the two most prominent, right? And I understand that it's difficult for people to put in a full comprehensive application allow listing policy and program. Like that's hard. But you can start with the stuff we know they're using and treat it just like it is, a malicious file because it's potentially malicious and it is malicious in your environment if you do not intend for it to be there. So just start with that, right? Using the tools you have, block AnyDesk implementations, block Screen Connect implementations, any other variations of RMM software out there. Block it if you're not using it actively.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are lists of these, because a lot of times you're going to do that through hash-based blocking. You can do directory-based, and that's not a bad call. Like, do it anyway, right? So
Yeah.
find the default directory it installs into and use that. Occasionally, we'll find it outside of that directory, so that's where more hash-based comes in.
Hmm.
And you'll have to keep up with that, right? Because anytime they do
Well,
an
if
update to the
if
version,
you are enrolled in Intune, though, you can prohibit applications through the Intune console, and
yeah,
so you don't have to worry about the revolving door of hashes. Now, that's
yep.
if you're fully onboarded to Intune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if you're using just some other EDR or something like that to block it, you're gonna have to keep up with it. But it's definitely a
Hmm.
good call. I know, I mean, for example, rclone, which we've talked about a million times on here, has legitimate uses, and we have ran into it legitimately in
Hmm.
investigations, but we actually have it at the top level of our tooling to say, basically, if you see this, block it. Just anywhere that we see it, and we have a like an up-to-date hash list of that.
Hmm.
Because of the however many cases we've seen it in, I think there's only been one where it was legitimate.
Yeah.
And so I would rather ask for forgiveness for blocking that one, that one time than
Hmm.
have to worry about it in all those cases. So yeah, it's definitely a good call to block those things.
Yeah. Is our clone still the weapon of choice for exfil that you're seeing most of the time?
If they're not doing it through some of those remote management tools, yes.
Hmm.
There's plenty of ways to do that through, any connector, screen connect, or different thing, or any desk, screen connect, things like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, if we see a tool, it's still generally our clone is what we see.
Hmm.
So.
So we're kind of talking about, the device code flow authentication, the purpose of that, utilizing OAuth for headless devices and IoT. You see any interesting IoT stuff, Pink?
It's almost like you knew I had something prepared for that. Um, yeah, yeah. So, um, looking at an interesting one right now, and definitely still in the middle of investigating. So I don't want to call this definitive just yet, but it sure is looking like it. It's looking like we have a ransomware attack that was at a minimum using some internet connected security cameras as their sort of pivot point in, right? So how they're connecting in. Um, and so the way we discovered that is through remote desktop logs on systems. Um, there were very distinct groupings of remote desktop connections that happened at very specific times on a whole bunch of machines. that were all encrypted. And, one of those being before the attack and one of them actively during the encryption event. And so as we were tracing this down, we the IP addresses were unknown, like nobody knew what those belonged to. So we did a little bit of sleuthing and were able to find MAC addresses and then go look up to see what devices those MAC addresses belong to. And it turns out it was a security camera, which is it's a cloud managed and or locally, across the network managed security camera with a number of vulnerabilities. It was actually targeted in 2024 in a pwn to own competition. Um, some pretty significant vulnerabilities there, but we're seeing remote desktop, like I said, we're seeing remote desktop connections come from a security camera, and so if you know remote desktop, that should not happen, right? Like that's it's not a native capability of a security camera. So it's really interesting. We haven't seen a whole lot of that, so it's kind of again, a thing that happens, and we know that it's out there, but we just haven't got to play with a whole lot of it. So still digging. We'll see if
Mhm.
we have a better update next month on kind of how that actually looked. But yeah.
Yeah, super interesting stuff there, man. And I just bring that up because I think about vulnerability management programs in general, right? And a lot of people disregard those types of devices and OT in general. And I think this is an example of why you have to treat your vulnerability management program as a comprehensive exercise. Literally anything that can and does touch your network should be managed under that program. And nobody's thinking about their security cameras.
Yeah, and as we've been saying forever too, any kind of IoT devices, things like that, they're I don't want to say inherently vulnerable, but I mean they're often more likely to have some vulnerabilities because there's things you don't update very often because you don't, if you're not including them in your vulnerability management, but they may not even get updated often, right? I mean, a lot of these companies just, I don't want to say they don't care, but they don't really care.
Yeah.
Um, and so, network segmentation, things like that, right? There's no reason that a security camera should be able to use the RDP port across the network. Like
Yeah.
that should be locked down, right? And that's, you know, every organization's different. There are reasons for why that is the case in this particular one that I won't get into, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, just default deny, like we've been talking about it forever today. So
Yeah.
if it doesn't need it, don't let it have it.
Eric, you've done a lot of cool things, got a lot of fun experiences, man. You got any fun wins or fun stories about utilizing IoT as a part of an attack chain?
I mean, not necessarily. I'm trying to think of, I mean, I'd love to be like, there's some cool stuff we've done in some environment or something like that with using IoT. But I mean, the closest thing I'd say is using printers and attack chains and stuff like that. But that's been
Hmm.
going on for a long time. That's nothing
Yeah.
new. And these days they got
Mhm.
Windows built into them or some other operating system built into them. Um, we've done some cool device tests. I mean, it depends on like what the device is and how it's operating and stuff like that. I mean, like what you can get running on it. A situation where RDP is coming from, and when I hear that, I'm questioning is it coming from it or is it routing through it, right?
It's
Is it
got to be
the
Yeah.
tunneling.
it's got to
Yeah.
be tunneling
Yeah,
through it, right?
Right.
And
that's
how's that working?
exactly.
And I mean, obviously IoT stuff, especially with cloud-based, has certain types of hole punching in firewalls and stuff that could be lovely to take advantage of to some level if you could to utilize it. So it's cool stuff. I've done some cool device testing in the past with just devices that are, on-prem but have to be accessed externally and yeah, getting in through some of those is that way to find that hole into the environment for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and like Pink said, it's default deny. I think that realistically, like you guys already said, people aren't looking at IoT devices as much, or maybe they're not getting updated as much. I mean, one of the things that a lot of IoT device manufacturers or software development for those devices is not done with a lot of security in mind, because it is supposed to be segmented. It's assumed
Yeah.
it'll be segmented to some level, or in the very least, it's not accessible publicly. But that doesn't mean someone won't make something accessible publicly, not thinking about the fact that it's designed to not be accessible publicly. So I will just say that generally, when looking at devices, IoT devices like that, security is a very far down the line afterthought for most of
Mhm.
these devices. And It's not so much that I don't have cool stories because they don't exist. It's because I don't get enough time to mess with some of that stuff. You know what I mean
Sure.
these days.
Yeah.
But it is even when I just play with stuff at home. I've done some IoT like hardware hacking stuff and learning about the systems that are on some of these devices, and there's generally no security at all in a lot of them. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it is. I'm not surprised to hear that someone would route traffic through one or something like that if they could get their
Mhm.
hands on it.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point we should have talked about in the beginning there. Is like you shouldn't have your IoT devices on the same network as your critical infrastructure, your workstations, where your business lives. Let's no put it there. Um, yeah, at a minimum, just make sure you're segmenting that. Don't give it access to anything. Like, sure, if you're not going to, you can't include that in your vulnerability management program because you don't know enough about it, or like I mean, the fact is, you may have security cameras that work good, and like Eric said, there's no security in mind. They're providing no patches. There's no focus on that at all. You don't have any options there, so just put it on an isolated network so it can't get to anything, and yeah, default deny.
Yeah.
Pink, any other like fun stories from the world of instant response cowboy you want to share with us?
That's what the hat's on, man. I've noticed I tend to wear the hat more when I'm like in battle mode, right? Which I feel
Yeah,
like we for a while now.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's been anything else that's kind of out there. Still seeing a lot of the similar things like I mentioned. The sonic walls are still getting abused. If you've got a sonic wall, go update that thing and threat hunt it like right now. I'm not bashing on sonic wall. I'm just saying they're still being heavily targeted. Um, Particularly Akira. Akira loves to find a sonic wall device.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that
y-
typically abusing known vulnerabilities right now, or is it
yeah,
through single factor
yeah.
authentication?
Yeah, I mean it's a little both, but yeah, it's we're still seeing a lot of the unpatched ones being exploited, right? We'll find one that hasn't been patched in a year or two. Um, we will still very, I don't want to say super frequently, but frequent enough see, yeah, either a single factor authentication or somehow that session was taken over and they're
Hmm.
using the VPN that way. There were some vulnerabilities a few months back, or well, it's probably closer to a year now, around sort of session hijack around those. There's one of those um, that we saw in a case, and then saw an additional vulnerability that came out after we wrapped the case up. It's a little bit of a fun internal pat on the back of like, hey, this isn't right. Something's going on here. You guys are fully patched and you're still getting compromised
Hmm.
by this. And then later found out that they did have a known. Um, well, at the time it was an unknown, but they were investigating it. Um, but yeah, the Sonic walls have been in trouble just the last little while. So
Oh yeah.
now next month it'll be the Cisco devices. Next month, the month after that, it'll be the Palo Alto
I
devices.
think there
It's
was a
just
big one the last couple weeks with Cisco and another one with Fortinet too. So it's all the
yep,
edge devices under are
yep,
going to be under constant scrutiny. I think we've talked
yep.
about that before. I feel like we bash some products on here, but that's not intentional. I mean, the
No,
reality is like the efforts of those creating and identifying these exploits right now are much more fruitful if they can get an ODA on an edge device that's got significant usage. And
yep.
in the enterprise or just in the world today. And so expect that to continue. There's no real fix for this right now. Just make sure you're diligent about understanding how to respond to those vulnerabilities. And like we always talk about, how to hunt, see if you have been exploited, and then making sure you're doing the basics right, making sure those accounts that are able to access through Edge are properly secured and properly monitored.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, that's one of the harder things to defend and sometimes hunt is, attack that came through VPN. It looks like legitimate traffic. It's a legitimate user. Oftentimes, we have to find something else that says, "Oh, this isn't legitimate," to track that down. And so, that and a friendly reminder, because I feel like I haven't done this in a few years, but friendly reminder to offload your firewall and VPN logs to somewhere. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because we were chatting earlier and it's like we used to actually talk about how dumb the attackers were, like
yeah,
how sloppy they were, I would say, in
yeah,
pretty significant cases that we've worked. And we've seen a shift in that, or you've seen a shift in that. I don't know if you want to talk about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we were chatting about this a little earlier, just in general. We've seen a big improvement in the attacker's ability to kind of clean up their tracks. Yeah, we've certainly seen some really goofy things over the years of just like, why did you, how? Like, how did you, like, I can't even be that loud if I'm trying to, kind of thing,
Hmm.
right? And so we've definitely seen a shift in that, a lot more methods to do things like event log clearing, also just sort of, when a lot of these attacks happen by nature, things like security logs often get flooded, right? So if you take out on an Active Directory domain, if you take out all the domain controllers, then every system sitting there trying to authenticate, trying to do things, and it floods those security logs, and they become pretty much useless. So there's been a lot of that, as well as for whatever reason, it seems like we're seeing people kind of fall off the bandwagon on, particularly on firewall logs. Um, honestly, I think a lot of this is because the firewall vendors have implemented a lot of these, like, oh, store your logs on the cloud, but also pay us a ton of money to do that.
Hmm.
And so I think people aren't taking care of that as much anymore. And so we're running into a lot of situations where we have, 2 hours of firewall logs, or something like that, and the attack happened 3 days ago.
Hmm.
Um, so between that, and then also just having some kind of, seam, or some sort of log storage for your like Windows event logs, things like that, your internal logs, anything you can log. Um, yeah, definitely need to kind of beat that drum a little more to get people doing that again, because
Yes.
it's making my life difficult, just to be honest with you.
Sure.
Like, don't make my life difficult. So
Yeah, we've been saying this for years too. It's log everything you can, keep it for as long as you can, as long as you can afford. I mean, the
yeah,
reality is there's a cost associated with that, because when the day comes we need them, they are absolutely critical and saving you money in the long term, right? You're going to invest in that up front, but like we don't have those logs. It takes a lot longer to work through a case than it does if you've got good, clean logs that are accessible. So you're going to save money in the long run for sure,
I
and just have a
mean,
little peace of mind and insurance.
and potentially downtime and things like that as well. I mean,
Mhm.
in particular, we have a case right now where everything was wiped, right? The attackers did a really good job wiping the logs, but also there weren't, great firewall logs. There weren't, there's no storage for those, that kind of thing. And so, I mean, essentially, the answer to this is just you have to rebuild everything, right? Like, I mean, they're having
Mhm.
to start over with a brand new Active Directory, rebuild everything from scratch,
Mhm.
because we cannot provide an answer of, how far back to go in backups, or how
Mhm.
far, or what was impacted and what wasn't impacted, at least to the level we'd like to.
Mhm.
And so that's a lot of downtime. If you're paying for somebody else to manage your IT, that's a lot of expense to pay, a managed service provider or something to come in and do that. And so, yeah, you're going to save yourself some money. You're going to save yourself some headache in the long term.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm curious on this topic though. You started off by talking about attackers being better about wiping logs and stuff like that. We all then kind of went off to not having the logs in the first
Mhm.
place. But I mean, just to talk about it for a second, if it's okay. Like, I feel like back in the day, like, I'm not saying I ever did any bad things. Okay. I
No,
wouldn't do that.
no.
But like, let's imagine an alternate reality, an alternate timeline where past Eric was a bad guy at some point in time, back in those days, on that timeline, there was a lot of deleting of logs. That was a very commonplace practice. You know what I mean? And part of me kind of felt like, and I've only thought about this a couple times, not really thinking about it too in depth, but was just like, it's the change in the outcome of the attack and the goal of the attack these days. Like now it's just about like getting in, ransoming or extorting or something like that. Like who cares if you find that I'm there? I'm gonna act fast, I'm gonna get it done. And so I almost feel like the reason people haven't been doing that stuff or caring about logs or trying to be whatever is just this assumption that I might miss them anyway. And what does it matter? If they're finding it after the fact that it's done, right? So are you actually seeing like a lot more on the wiping side or like trying to cover traces? I'm curious almost what the implications of that is that people are worried about getting caught now.
Yeah, yeah, no, we are. So, I mean, even a year ago, pretty much any ransomware attack we can pop in there, we can pretty well trace out the entire attack. Assuming logs haven't rolled over, things like that. But
Hmm.
there was not a lot of clearing. We would see some clearing, and it did happen. Um, but yeah, definitely, I think pretty much every case we've had recently of like an internal comp, a I'm just gonna say a ransomware attack because they've made it that far. We've seen log clearing, and so I mean, my general take on it, because obviously I think about these things while I'm while we're working through these, is this could potentially be a little bit of an after effect of the international law enforcement agencies taking some of these guys down, right? So we saw them take out Emotet and Quackbot and things like that recently, they had to get the data on the attacker's infrastructure from somewhere, right? And logs and investigating attacks is where that likely came from. So I don't know if they're just more worried about that being a problem, and so they're trying to clean up a little better now, or what the case is. But that's sort of where I've landed on it.
I wonder
I mean,
too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, my mind also thinks that, I mean, I agree it could be that. I think there's other ways of tracing some of that too. But I wonder if it's just a sign of an intention to dwell longer. I mean, like
That
obviously
was,
we don't
yeah,
know, right? Like if the
yeah.
reality is if those logs are wiped, we don't know how long they've been dwelling there.
Hmm.
Sometimes even when they have great logs, we don't know how long they've been dwelling there because they only go back, like you said, a couple days or even a couple months. And yeah. So maybe there's this intention now to live longer and strike at the right time.
You took the
Yeah,
words out of my mouth, man. I think it definitely correlates to that. And I wonder too, that was my question to you, Pink, in these cases where you're seeing that cleanup activity, is it still pre-ransom or where they have been dwelling? They're trying to cover those tracks and lay low while they map out the payload.
I mean, I don't know, right? Because we
Hmm.
also see it. Generally, what we're seeing is a log clearing event at the time of encryption.
Mm.
And so I think it's essentially just built into the encryptors at this point.
Hmm.
Run because it's a pretty simple PowerShell command, things like that. That will, and,
Hmm.
and sometimes we'll find that remnant of that PowerShell command because they didn't clear the PowerShell log for whatever
Yeah.
reason. They're focusing on the other logs. Um, so kind of as you guys are talking about that, one other thought that just really I really hadn't given a lot of thought yet was potential to want to dwell longer as well, right? So not even just covering up the previous activities, but being able to hang around and hit them again, which is something we're always aware of and always looking for and warning people about. But it may be part of that process too, just like
Mhm.
Right.
because people aren't paying ransoms as frequently anymore, and
Yeah.
so let me stick around and just keep hitting them until they finally pay. So
Yeah. Cool. I know we only got a few minutes left. There's two more quick hitters I wanted to touch on really quick. I don't know if you guys seen this, but there was reports came out that LinkedIn's done extensive scanning and data collection on LinkedIn users, essentially running hidden JavaScripts to collect data on extensions that you're utilizing on your browser. So LinkedIn spying on you. How you guys feel about that? Personally, I got to say this. I'm not on LinkedIn, and people are always like, "How are you not on LinkedIn? Why are you not on the thing?" Like, the socials are bad, man. I don't do it. And this is just another example of the socials stealing data to be used. I'm sure they're selling the data, man. I'm sure they're using it for their own competitive advantage as well. I saw a really, really, really interesting targeted ad on LinkedIn that somebody sent to me the other day. And like, how could LinkedIn do this? Like, how could they know this about me and deliver a targeted ad this specific? And I was like, I have no idea. So I asked some marketing people about it. They had no idea either. Then this comes out, and I'm like, I got an idea of how they can do this.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm the only one of us three that are on LinkedIn. So yeah, and I'll just tell you, I'm on LinkedIn to steal data. That's why I'm there. I don't use it for its
yeah.
intended purpose. I
Yeah.
I don't even I would not have an account otherwise. But yeah. That said, super jaded response is, yeah, of course they
Of
do.
course they are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I
It's
yeah,
at no point would I have thought they weren't. Like
yeah.
it's this day and age, all of these services, that's what they're doing. That's why you're not paying for LinkedIn. I mean, some
Hmm.
people are paying for LinkedIn, but this is a different
yeah,
topic, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, they're
yeah.
scoundrels. They're all scoundrels, but they're all just stealing our data. They're all getting constant information about us so they can sell to people so they can market to us better, period.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever. Look, I mean, in some ways, I'm kind of almost not going to fault them for that. I mean, we allow it, so
Hmm.
it is what it is. It's like I don't know. You hit the agree button that you didn't read. It's still dirty. I don't love it, but
Hmm.
but
No,
yeah. I
there's
mean,
nothing okay with it at all, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But the reality of the situation is that you've got what's the percentage of people who actually have a healthy understanding of how bad and how much of a violation this is compared to the rest of the public,
fair.
right? So then the public goes along with all this stuff. It develops this new normal in capitalism, right? Like it's no longer about selling goods, it's about selling and harvesting data, right? And then we get to a certain point where it's like, well, I either just sit here and be the curmudgeony, guy who is screaming that the end is nigh or something like that, or I just go in and just be part of it, right? And I'll just be part of it. I don't care anymore. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be clear, I was not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying I can't blame them for taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I can blame them for, essentially using it, but I also kind of get it. But yeah, I mean, generally not a fan of any of the socials, just anyway. But in particular, LinkedIn was one of those that I was always like, I mean, I don't know, it can't be that bad, right? And then really, I got here and saw how we use LinkedIn, specifically how Eric is mentioned in using LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, okay, yep, but definitely not using it now.
It's the
So,
best, yeah, the best recon tool in the world.
yeah,
It really is.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
laughed so many times too. There's a lot of penetration testers or hackers out there who they have catfish accounts on LinkedIn. They have special accounts, fake person, fake name, fake titles, fake all this stuff, and they try to get it joined up with all these people in the world. And people will ask me like, "Do you have a catfish account on LinkedIn?" I'm like, "No. Why?" And it's like, well, that way you can get connected. The more people you're connected to, the more data you can see. And I was just like, have you met recruiters? They're connecting me
Yeah.
to everybody in the world. I accept every recruiter's request, and I'm a second link to like everybody now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's fine. And I get a lot of great job offers. Maybe I'm gonna take no.
That
All
was all
right,
nervous laughter.
one more thing real quick. Pink, great fishing report today, man. This was pretty much the fishing report episode. But we still got to do our catch of the week, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so FBI declares a surveillance system breach in a major incident. So a Chinese backed threat actor breached internal FBI surveillance systems, leading the Bureau to classify this as a major incident, which is means it's pretty bad. They got targets under investigation, phone numbers, metadata, details tied to active investigations, ongoing monitoring activities. I'm sure they know who the moles are, who the informants are, all these things. And so, yeah, pretty interesting attack. Definitely an espionage attack here. And I'm just curious what happens next. I think this is definitely an embarrassment for the FBI right now. But now China has all this data on the FBI ongoing operations. And what do you think is going to materialize from this? Do you think anything? Do you think we'll ever even see what materializes from this?
C is different. I mean, that's
No,
I don't know.
see, you understand, how this
No,
information is.
yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
got you. I was gonna say I don't know that we'll ever know for sure that stuff came from this, but
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna take one step back and just use this as an opportunity to be like, yeah, this is why you can't trust the government with a bunch of information. But okay. Um so
Another
yeah.
day, another government breach. I'm
Yeah,
with you. Yeah.
another rant. We could have a whole
Yeah.
other podcast for that. But yeah. Um yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know what's gonna come from this. This is kind of interesting. I don't know that we have any historical precedent for this, really.
I don't know, man. If there's some pretty high level, significant, like organized crime units in China that have operations in the United States, I bet there's a
Yeah,
lot of deceased informants at the moment.
very possible.
Well, that got dark real fast.
That
Sorry,
did
man.
get
It's where
I
Blaine
know,
goes.
Goodness. I
I
mean,
watch mob movies, bro. I know what's up.
I'm with Pink. I don't know if we'll know. I mean, I think things will come of it. I don't know what they will be. Honestly, when I heard this one too, I mean, I wasn't even like thinking that side of it. I was more just like, how did, like, because it came in from like an ISP, like a third party's connection in, right? And like,
Yeah.
I would assume that the FBI working with the ISPs are giving them data, not taking data per se. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what does this connection look like that it was able to be abused in this way?
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll know that either. But that was
Yeah.
my first thought, was just like there was something not set up right there for sure. I mean, like
Mhm.
this isn't just like, oh, third party got breached and got their way in, and that's just the data they should have access to, like no.
Yeah.
You trying to tell me the government didn't do something right?
I'm not trying to tell you, I am telling you that.
Shame on you, Eric.
Yeah.
All right.
Shame.
One last
On that
announcement.
note,
Oh, sorry.
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
Oh,
you
I
go.
just like I got something to you talk about too. You know, you
Yeah.
said that was our last thing. I was going to talk about the CVE.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So since the last Hackle Box till now, actually right after the last Hackle Box, like the following Monday, finally released one of our own. His name's Matthew Owens. He found a CVE, found a vulnerability in iDrive for Windows, and so just figured I'd talk about that a little bit. It is a local on the machine, but it's a privilege escalation, allow a standard user to go to system level user. And it is CVE 2026-1995. Great year, great year. A lot of good movies came out in 95, just saying. And yeah, so iDrive isn't probably the most popular backup in a business, but it is actually a very popular backup tool. And so if you're using that, I would say, I know at the time of when it came out, I haven't actually looked today. At the time of it coming out, it still wasn't patched, and so it's something to be concerned about, and just making sure that you're aware of it. So
Yeah, super, super proud of Matt for putting in the work, identifying this, going through the process of responsible disclosure as well,
yeah,
getting this published in CVE database, which is huge. We do got a blog up on our website now. So
okay,
if you're curious to go into details and learn more about that, check out the blog. That's awesome. Big shout out, big kudos to Matt.
yeah.
I
Let
was
me
going to throw
clarify
that in
one.
the YouTube chat real
You
quick.
do that.
Actually,
You do
the
that.
blog. Yeah,
Um,
have it handy.
I will clarify one thing too, just in case it's not obvious, is that I said, it was released on, I think it was the 16th or some 16th or 17th, and that it was not currently patched. We did go through a long, lengthy responsible disclosure on this, and it was first alerted to them back in, was it October or something like that?
I think
And
that's
so
right.
September, August, somewhere around there. It was late summer, early fall, and so we have been trying to work with them and working with other groups on this for quite a while, but it did finally go public. So yeah,
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Go Owens.
Way to go, Owens. That dude's pretty smart.
He's pretty sharp kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. My announcement's simple. CISSP mentorship program kicks off a week from the day on the 15th. So if you're out there, you're listening, you're interested in joining that, we've helped thousands of people get their CISSP over the year. It's an awesome program. It's free. We do it to serve the mission, try to educate people. So if you're interested, check out the website. We got links up there how to sign up and be part of that. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Pink. Let's all have a great rest of our week. We'll see you guys later.
Sounds good.
see you.
Bye, everybody.